This is the Live Well and Thrive podcast, hosted by Torchia, health and wellness expert. It's time to shape up, America.
Hi, this is Mike Torchia, and welcome to Live Well and Thrive. I got a very special guest, Jonathan Carp. He's the man behind Miracle Noodle. It's outrageous. One serving is one net carb. It's amazing. He's taken a vegetable and made it into a pasta and a rice. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So for Italian, it's like a blessing because, you know, we like to have our pasta.
It's true. Everyone loves to have their pasta. It's a sort of an international thing. If it's not pasta, it's noodles. So it's that comfort food experience, you know, that everyone wants.
Yeah, because, you know, I know with carbs for me, growing up in an Italian family, we always had like potatoes and rice and the bread and the pasta. It's a comfort food. Mm-hmm. And now that you made it possible for people that are fitness oriented or just conscious of their weight can have their favorite foods, because I noticed that you have the different packs with the different flavoring, like you have the different Asian infusion, and then you have the Italian dishes. And can you share a little bit how you elaborated into more than just this noodle?
Sure. Yeah, well, the noodle itself, interestingly, has been eaten in Japan for over 1,000 years, which is interesting. It was a traditional noodle there that they have been eating. You know, it was invented by Buddhist monks over 1,000 years ago, and it had the connotation of being a healthy product, but because they've been eating it for so long, it was just something, you know, that they ate all the time. They didn't really necessarily think of it as something really remarkable. But when I discovered it in Japan and I saw the health benefits and that it's low carb, I thought, you know, that this is great. I mean, people can enjoy noodles and pasta. So when we brought it to the United States, basically we started to make it into different shapes. And then we realized people, you know, don't necessarily want to have to cook. So we made combinations with flavors. We made some Asian flavors. Now we have a marinara cup and a pesto cup, really clean ingredients. And it's just an easy way to get the flavors without having to worry about the carbs and the calories.
Now, what is a typical serving size? How many ounces is it?
It's 3.5 ounces, small.
That's good.
Yeah. People sometimes eat the whole bag, which is 7 ounces, but you know, it's yeah.
But you know, now how did this happen? Did you go to Asia for a trip or looking for something?
I wasn't looking for anything. I was visiting a friend in Japan, and this was around 2006, somewhere around there, a long time ago. And I'm a medical doctor. Around 2004, I really got into integrative lifestyle medicine. I had a patient who healed herself of lupus with nutrition, and that really changed the course of my medical career. I mean, in a major way. And when I was in Japan, and my friend took me to this Buddhist vegetarian restaurant. They gave me a big bowl of noodles, and I wouldn't normally, you know, consume so much flour-based noodles and such. So I was like, you know, I don't think I'm going to eat this whole thing. And they said, oh, no, there's no calories. I'm like, what? You know, it totally boggled my mind. And, you know, at the time I was teaching people how to transition to eating healthier in my medical practice. And I thought, would be great I kind of thought of it as almost like a transitional food, something that people could eat while they're learning how to eat healthier and getting into the habits of eating healthier. And I came back from that trip. I started a website, and pretty much the next day, you know, I got a sale, and then it was sort of off to the races in a lot of senses. And I realized very quickly from the emails that we were getting, emails from Italians with diabetes and, you know, you name it, all kinds of different thank you letters. And I thought, wow, this isn't just a transitional food. This is a food that people can eat as a noodle pasta alternative whenever they want, and still have the benefits of the fiber. You know, it has this really amazing fiber. It's called glucomannan. And glucomannan is one of the most potent prebiotic fibers on the planet. It's been when you do PubMed searches on this fiber, it's been studied. Just like 1 or 2 grams of this stuff will lower your weight by like up to 6 pounds, you know, without changing anything in your diet. Lowers cholesterol, lowers blood sugar. It's really an amazing
And it's
ingredient.
a vegetable.
Yeah, it's made from the root of a plant. So it's made from the corm of the plant, which is like the bulb at the base of the stem. And for whatever reason, these Buddhist monks discovered that when you ground it up, rinsed it, rinsed it of the starch, you were left with this fiber that I don't know how they discovered it, that if they sort of mixed in sort of an alkaline solution, it formed into a solid that you could make into different shapes. And it's a staple, in Japan. But as I said, to them, it's like there's nothing special about it. It's just something that they eat. For us, though, it's unique.
That's amazing because I've heard so many times over and over, people go, oh, I can't wait to get the weight off so I can eat pasta again. Mm-hmm. Now you've made it possible.
Exactly, yeah.
You're never depriving yourself of your favorite foods. Now, you also have rice, correct?
Yeah, the rice is basically the noodle put into the shape of rice. Uh-huh. So just put into small pieces, basically. And when you add things like, you can make a rice and beans with it, there's something about the starchiness of the beans that sort of, anyway, it gives it the mouthfeel of having rice and beans. And also, you get this beneficial fiber. And it absorbs, because it's mostly made of water, it's going to absorb the flavor of the sauce. And it'll give you that kind of, good feeling of eating. The noodles and the rice are 97% water. And the rest is this incredibly beneficial, soluble plant fiber.
Now, when you sell it in the containers, the bags, correct?
Yeah.
Is it pre-cooked, or you have to boil it in water and all that too?
It's pre-cooked. You rinse it off, and it's ready to go. The difference when you're making, say, a pasta dish, is that you want to cook it in the sauce, because you don't want to pour. It won't absorb the flavors.
Right.
So you want to cook it on the stovetop for a good 5 minutes, with your favorite red sauce or whatever, and just let it kind of cook in.
Well, usually, like when I make like a nice tomato basil or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll really cook everything fresh, and then at the last minute, I'll quickly cook the pasta for about 6 minutes or less, and then I put it in the sauce, and that finishes it for another 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you said, it absorbs it just right. So I would do the same thing. Cook my sauce, drop it in there for 5 minutes so it can absorb the sauce and the flavoring, and then we're ready to eat.
Exactly.
Now, do you have a plain version too?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Most of the products are plain. In that scenario, you'd want to cook it with the sauce a little bit longer.
Okay.
Some people, if they're sautéing, say, onions and garlic, they'll sauté it for a short period of time, and then they'll add their noodles, like right in the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
Because you can't really overcook it. And the longer it's cooking with all the other ingredients, the better it actually is.
Yeah, like when I prepare like chicken cacciatore, I'll slice up the onion and the mushrooms, and I'll saute it with just enough of olive oil, flavor. And when I see it's about, midway cooked, then I put strips of chicken. And I use chicken breast and sometimes blend with chicken thigh, which is a little more moist. And then what I do is the sauce is already cooked. So after that's cooked, then I put it into the sauce. So what I would do is use your noodles when I'm cooking the mushroom and onions in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really gets flavorful.
Exactly.
The olive oil in there and all the flavor in the vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to try that.
Yeah, sounds delicious.
Well, we're going to be spinning off another show called Recipe for Health.
Okay.
So I want you to come back.
That'd be great.
We're going to have a kitchen.
Awesome.
And we'll cook together.
That would be great.
And this way, and we'll have an audience trying the food.
That's great.
And because I want them to say, hey, try it. Because sometimes people say, no, it won't taste the same.
Yeah.
You'd be pleasantly surprised how great it could taste.
It's true. I mean, it really is going to be as good as the rest of the ingredients because it's going to absorb the flavors so well.
And who came up with the name Miracle Noodle? I love it.
I think it was my mother that actually came up with that, come to think of it. Yeah, she came up with it, and but it seemed miraculous to me, when I, as a physician, like when I came back and I really did some research on it. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the health benefits, so it seemed like a miracle to me,
It's a perfect name.
Yeah, thank you.
And, I saw that you had been on Rachel Ray and Dr. Oz also.
Yeah, years ago.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, so is there another product you're going to be launching besides this that you have in mind?
Yeah, well, we just released a product that I'm really incredibly proud of. It's a noodle made from egg whites. So it's just egg whites in water, and we have a vermicelli, kind of super thin, and a spaghetti. It's 10 grams of protein, less than 1 gram of carbohydrates, 40 calories, and it is ready to eat. It's incredible. It's a fun way to get protein. It's easy to understand as a product. Egg white. Everyone understands egg white. Everyone knows that egg white is a complete protein, and protein, is, especially nowadays with people on these GLP-1 inhibitors and such, increasingly important for those folks especially. So having a fun way of getting protein is really, really cool, and we're really happy about that
Well, I like that you're expanding the line. And as I always believed that eggs is one of the highest quality proteins you can get. So, I mean, my whole beginning of my bodybuilding career was I used to have the egg whites made by J. Robb.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Remember him?
That's still around, actually.
Yeah, it is
product.
around.
Yeah.
And
he really was the first one to do that.
yeah, he was a dear friend.
Okay.
He used stevia
Yeah.
for the sweetener. It was like the cleanest protein powder I ever had.
Yeah.
I just love the way, never had any digestive issues with it. So when you said egg, I was like, that's another big seller.
Yeah. I mean, it's an easy, if you can throw into, say, a soup, 10 grams of protein in the form of a thin, really thin noodle, it's just really great. And
now, have you ever had any restaurants say, hey, we want to offer the Miracle Noodle for our patrons?
Yeah, we have some restaurants around the country that do that. Probably the biggest one is, or I guess you could say food service type of thing is Erewhon down the street. They serve, a bunch of different dishes with our noodle over there, which is nice.
Yeah, no, I know Vito and Tucci, one of the owners. They're great.
Yeah.
I love it. I go there probably 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I go to the Beverly Drive location. So, yeah, because, like, for instance, there's a restaurant in West Hollywood called Craig's.
Okay.
Craig Susser is a dear friend of mine. He was on the show a few weeks ago. And he has a complete line of vegan dishes. He has chicken parmesan, which is not chicken. It's all vegetables. Then he has a vegan line of ice cream. When you taste it, it tastes creamy, just like ice cream. So, and then he has the spaghetti squash. But I would think that this would blow away, because you got to remember, if you cook the spaghetti squash too much, it's not al dente.
Yeah.
It's very mushy. So it's a very fine line when you're cooking it. Something like this, there's no issue.
No issue. Yeah, the spaghetti squash, it's a good option, but you're eating a vegetable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But with Miracle Noodles, it tastes like a noodle. It tastes like pasta. It doesn't, the mouthfeel, you don't think you're eating a vegetable.
Yeah,
even though technically you kind of are, but you don't feel
But
that
I
way.
would think with people, even years ago when I lived in New York, people, we would say in California, are so health conscious. Like, good luck trying to get a baked potato or steamed vegetables. Now you can do that in New York. But I would say, especially in LA, all these top restaurants would love an option to provide their people. Because even if they're not in the fitness world, they may have diabetes. They may have weight issues, cardiovascular conditions where they need to be careful of the starches.
That's true. I think the timing is right, and we are spending more time on that. We did the National Restaurant Show like 5 or 6 years ago, and I learned that the restaurant industry is fairly slow to adopt new trends. But now I think the timing is right, so we are spending a lot of time on that.
I would say, like, for instance, like the Hotel Bel Air in Beverly Hills Hotel.
Yeah.
They have the cold press fresh juices now. And they make a point to mention that it's on there. I would think some of the prestigious hotels, if you share with them the incredible nutrients that are in it and the low carbs and et cetera, and there's no wheat, there's no gluten, and the advantages, because there are going to be people that want to eat pasta or rice, but they can't because they have either health issues or weight issues. would be a great alternative because they're always trying to find something that's so unique about the menu, like the Polo Lounge or John George in the Waldorf Astoria and the Belvedere in the Peninsula. If you want me to make introductions, I will.
That'd be great.
Because I know all the managers.
That'd be great.
But I would think this is a great additive. Plus, I don't want them to have it in there because when they go there, I can get the Miracle Noodle.
Yeah, thank you.
So this whole journey of yours, are you going around trying to discover other products or just keep?
Always, yeah. The egg noodle product was an interesting one. I was able to connect with a PhD food scientist. This was her PhD project, and we hit it off, and it just fit so well. We just nutritionally speaking, and so I'm always on the lookout. And even when I do these trade shows, like I was at a trade show last week, a big one called Natural Products Expo. I'm always looking, for partnerships and collaborations, and our mission, as being a physician, we're changing the company name from Miracle Noodle to Miracle Living because we're going to be spending a lot of time on health education and training programs for people, and so I'd like to create essentially a lifestyle brand that allows people to enjoy eating healthy food at the same time. Educating them like you educate people, to make the right decisions and such.
So would this become almost like a subscription base where they can have the food delivered to them if they wanted a 30-day or 2-week supply of meals with the breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Could it become something like that?
I've spoken to some meal delivery companies to sort of hash that out. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, I know all the top companies because I give them business,
Yeah.
I would say that would be genius because now you're offering something they don't have.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the nutritional breakdown of their pasta alternatives,
Right.
not that good.
No.
But something like yours,
Yeah.
it easily will fit into any meal prep company because people are always wanting to have their feel-good foods.
It's true. And, as opposed to some of these gluten-free pastas that, get the overcooked and they're overly starchy, with Miracle Noodle, you really can't. You can't mess it up. It's tummy proof. I mean, when you go to Japan in the wintertime, it's interesting. You go to a 7-Eleven, they'll have this like boiling cauldron like soup at the front, as you're checking out at the 7-Eleven, and it actually has a product like ours in there, and it's boiling for hours. And
it still stays the same.
Yeah, it still stays the same.
Yeah, because I remember when they first came out with like vegan products and all these other replacement foods for what was traditional, like the wheat and all the other artichoke pastas. Even though no matter how you cooked it, what you put on it, it almost like was chalky, too chewy.
Oh yeah.
So I always felt that the texture is important, but the fact you got the texture down so well, and whoever is your formulator is genius.
Yeah,
how they put it together, because I know it was a lot of work to perfect it. Correct?
Yeah, to make it more palatable for sure to the Western audience, we definitely had to make changes. No question about that.
So when you are taking the next step with your company, is it where you're going to provide every element of how people can have a healthy life?
Yeah, I think we're going to start with some health programs with health coaches. I'd like to expand it to just some lab, teaching people how to get basic labs and follow their own labs is sort of a big thing for me with my patients, because I find that when people understand just a few metrics in their blood, they've really become super empowered. It's like nothing I've ever really seen before. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't feel comfortable going in and getting their own labs. But nowadays you can do that. You can walk into a lab and order your own lab work. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow.
You can do that. Even Quest and LabCorp, those which are the
so you no longer need a
companies,
prescription.
You don't. It doesn't now. Sometimes it means you won't be covered by insurance,
Okay.
but not all tests are expensive. As an example, an fasting insulin test, which is really can provide a lot of information for people, is $10 to $15 or something like that. And when people understand that they can do that, and they they are, and they do it. You know, a lot of times, oftentimes, they feel, they feel like, oh, no, a doctor needs to order that. I can't order that on my own.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they'll go and they'll get the blood result that they ordered, and then they go into their doctor, and their doctor yells at them, like, why would you do such a thing? Well, people have to become more empowered. They have to become their own authority in health. And you can explain to someone very quickly what a couple basic labs like insulin, exactly what a fasting insulin means. And if once they get over that hurdle, that mental hurdle, and they get over the fact that their doctor might yell at them, which is ridiculous,
Yeah, right.
they become incredibly empowered, and you really see changes.
Hey, it's Mike Torchia. I got great news. My sponsor, Texas Slim Cuts, is providing a line of products for Live Well and Thrive. We're going to have high-quality beef jerky sticks that are high protein, not full of any chemicals and dyes and additives that are toxic to the body. Also, we're going to be offering desiccated liver tablets, high protein, antioxidant. We're also going to have 100% beef protein powder in 3 different flavors. Delicious, mixes easily, and is so smooth to drink. And it can be put into your oatmeal and other beverages if you want to add some flavor. Also, final product that we're going to be launching is a organic butter infused with olive oil. Creamy, great tasting, and spread smoothly over your toast, or you can cook with it too. Nothing that's going to have any kind of toxic ingredients or questionable ingredients. So go to operationfitness.com. Within the next few months, you're going to start to see this whole line of products made by Texas Slim Cuts and the ranches up in Texas, and it'll be under the label of Live Well and Thrive products. Thanks for watching, and thanks again for Texas Slim for sponsoring this show, making it possible. And remember, you need to subscribe to YouTube channel. That keeps my show going. And share the episodes. Thank you. I love what you're doing, because there's so many times people said, hey, Mike, I got my blood work, but I don't understand it. Mm-hmm. Can you help me? And I go through it. But this is great. You're allowing people to be able to take care of themselves and not always reliant on a medical practitioner. Because here's the other thing, as you know, when you get the blood results, basically, I've seen doctors do it all the time. They scan. As long as they don't see an L or an H, you're fine.
Right.
It could be a fraction away from being low, fraction away from being high, but you're okay because they don't see L or H. But I like to look at it, okay, well, where it is on the chart. Mm-hmm. Are you close to being deficient? Are you close to being too high?
Yeah.
There could be markers that are saying, hey, you're real close to having a problem with your liver or your kidneys or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think educating people on how to read the blood work, it's just as important how to read labels on a box.
No question.
Or a can or any kind of product
or
package of food in the store.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And one of the things is that a lot of the lab tests are based on sort of an average of the American population. So if you're really going for super optimal health, you can't rely on an L and an H at all. So that's part of the education. It's always nice to have someone to review these tests with, but that doesn't mean that there are certain things that you can follow on by yourself. And I think the value in that is the empowerment that comes, that there are things that I can change, and then I can see those changes in my blood work. That changes people's approach to their overall individual health.
So do you think you'll be doing virtual consults or seminars? Okay.
Definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, I have this company called Hollow AI. They've created what I call a digital duplicate of myself.
Okay.
I've wrote 3 books, but haven't published them yet because I'm really building the platform here to really get high volume. When it gets to a point, I'm going to slowly release the books. But what it has is all this information from my years of training myself, training other people. I've worked with people with asthma, diabetes, MS. I've trained paraplegics, people that were morbidly obese, people that were underweight, people that had various different surgeries, double hip, knee, kids fitness, pet nutrition, I've spent so much of my life trying to find ways to help the whole entire family, not just the humans, our furry
amazing.
friends too. And so you can ask it a question. You can even say, hey, I would like to make chicken cacciatore. I want to make fresh tomato basil. I want to make a pizza. It'll give you the ingredient list, the cook time, and the prep.
Wow.
Everything. And it either can send it through a chat box or it'll read it off to you. And I also worked with Sly Stallone's son who's autistic. He's an adult now. And so I spent a great deal of time with him and Sasha, his mom. And so I dedicated a part of it for autistic children and adults. Not only the autistic adults and children, but also their caretakers. Because they have to understand how someone with autism actually thinks, and so because it can be very frustrating. So I included in there, and the Autistic Foundation is using my AI for the kids and the adults.
That's awesome.
So I'm using it as an educational tool. I think it'd be genius. I can introduce you to them.
Yeah.
To have where it's 24/7, and it's capable of answering and sending information in 30 different languages.
Wow.
So it's worldwide. So they, like on your site, you can have AI, Miracle, whatever you could say, AI, Jonathan, whatever, Carp, right? And you can ask questions like, how did you discover this?
Yeah.
What is it exactly? And it'll share the information completely free.
Wow. That's awesome.
24/7. But what's good about it is it tracks the data. So you understand who your people are, what they commonly ask for, their comments on the different things. So this way you understand who's buying your product and how you can make it better.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to hear
I'll
more
introduce them.
about
It's
that.
fantastic. They actually have a full-size avatar of me where it's going to be able to show me demonstrating exercises. It'll show me preparing the food.
Wow.
It's just amazing. So there'd be like a whole virtual world you can go to through this chat box. So I just thought for you, it'd be a perfect tool.
I think so.
And they want to get this technology out there about them, so it's not going to cost you anything, right?
Yeah. I think AI, as you're saying, is just a game changer in that, because just going back to what we're talking about, the lab work, you know, people can learn a hell of a lot, interacting, interacting with AI to learn these sorts of things, and to review their labs and such. Of course, you want to learn the basics yourself, of course, and not rely on that, but the future is going to be such that we're going to be interacting in these ways, and the role of experts and doctors is actually, I think, is really going to diminish in favor of people, being more empowered. We're sort of in like some kind of transitional state. It's sort of exciting times to see how it's going to.
Totally true.
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of orthopedic surgeons, infectious disease doctors, because I have on-demand medical in my company. So if someone needs a specific eye doctor, foot doctor, surgeon, you name it, we refer them, the clients. I have doctors like in 11 countries right now, taking care of some of my royal clients. And the thing about it is, we're helping people get the finest service possible, but we're also understanding what are the common ailments of people today. So I've been kind of tracking a lot of asthma, a lot of MS, a lot of diabetes, and from what? I really feel between the toxins and the poor food people eat and the processed foods are why people were born with so many other ailments and diseases. And we can prevent that if we educate our people on how to properly take care of your body. Eating the right foods, avoiding toxins, because as you know, what you see, what you hear, what you breathe in, what you touch, creates a chemical reaction, And so I tell people you have to have all the elements, but what you're doing is great because you're going to incorporate that into the Miracle Noodle to be able to offer something where people can do it themselves.
Yeah, that's my mission. Really, is to empower people to become their own authority in health, and I think it's a birthright for everyone. And the way that modern medicine has unfortunately evolved is that and I think there are amazing things about modern medicine. However, the way it works is the doctor is sort of like the high priest, and you automatically defer to the doctor. And it's at one point in time maybe that was an okay scenario, perhaps. nowadays, with all the information that's available and the things that we're talking about, I'm not so sure that sort of is a valuable thing. My father was a doctor. He was a traditional family practice doctor in a small town in New Jersey, and medicine was different then. I used to go on house calls. I would carry his doctor's bag as a little boy to see grandma up on the second floor of an old farmhouse. Really memorable, precious moments, for me. And, people respected him not just because he was an amazing doctor, but because there was a level of connection and care that really just is barely available nowadays. If people couldn't pay, they would bring a bushel of apples to pay, and no one said anything. This was the type of medicine that I was raised with, and it doesn't really exist anymore, except for the fact that doctors, I like to think that I'm like my father in that way, and that when the exam door closes, that there's a personal connection that is a healing relationship that is a tradition of medicine, but isn't really in existence much anymore.
And it's a shame because years ago, that was common practice.
Yeah.
You'd have the doctor come over, the veterinarian come over.
Yeah.
And now, today, it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
I know they're doing the virtual, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
The fact your dad came over, they said, there's Mr. Carp, Dr. Carp coming over,
Yeah.
He's going to take care of me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be better. He's on his way.
Yeah.
Right? Just know he's coming made them feel better, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the placebo effect is real, but ultimately, when you establish a healing relationship with somebody, that doesn't necessarily have to be a medical doctor. It could be any sort of coach, mentor, trainer, whatever the case may be. But once that connection is established, that's a holy relationship, and from that comes a lot of growth and healing. No matter
well, that's
what
why
it is.
you're going to be very successful, as you did with the noodle, with this new
Thank
division, because you care. And people can tell you care. How sincere are you, the way you talk about it. What I wanted to bring up also, too, before I became a trainer, training humans, I actually was a veterinary assistant. I had dreams of being a vet, grew up on a farm. I wanted to help animals live a quality life. But when it came to the vet telling me I had to put a dog down, and there was a little girl, she was like 5 years old, and it was her little old beagle, and she was crying, is he going to be okay? And the doctor said, you need to tell the family and bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
I basically had a meltdown.
Yeah.
I said, Doc, I'll come with you, but that poor little girl, I can't do that to her. And then I decided to train people instead of being a vet. But I've truly written a lot of articles about how to properly feed your pets. Would you ever consider, just putting it out there, a pet line?
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be sensational.
Yeah, I have. I just had a conversation about that last week, actually, because we have had people who have used our Miracle Rice and put it in with the dog food for their dogs if their dogs were overweight, and it was helpful. I would need to work with some vets for that, but. But it's funny you mention that because, yes, I have thought that.
It's so important. I'll tell you, people have said, Mike, my dog keeps licking his paws, keeps scratching, has the runs, just their skin, there's so much psoriasis, right? So let me see what you're feeding your pet. Of course, it's these canned and bagged food. So I've gotten them into preparing the food for their dogs. And we put EM or rice as a starch. We put a vegetable, we put a protein, really quality food. I'm like, Mike, I haven't brought my dog to the vet in 2 years.
Yeah, I believe
No
it.
hot spots, no excessive shedding.
Yeah.
And the dog looks happier.
Yeah.
And they live a longer, fuller life. And I just did a tip just the other day on don't give your pets table scraps. Would you give table scraps to your son, your daughter?
Yeah.
Why would you give it to your dog?
Yeah.
So it's what we are, what we eat. So I was thinking, there's I think 180 million people that have either a cat or dog or both in the United States.
Wow.
That audience itself would be a perfect audience to help because I've worked with Cesar Millan. He's a wonderful man,
yeah.
and he totally believes in nutrition. He talks about preparing his food. He actually has his food prepared for all his dogs on this huge ranch up north.
Wow.
You know, that'd be something. I can actually
Yeah.
introduce you to Cesar if you'd like.
Yeah, I would love that.
I think
yeah.
that'd be a great partnership.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, I mean, that there's no. I mean, everyone wants their dogs to live as long as possible and be as healthy. Unfortunately, the dogs often are just a reflection of their humans who aren't eating all that well to begin with, which is sort of a problem.
Well, I mean, I remember Cesar saying 60% of the dogs in the United States are overweight. Obese.
60%. Wow.
60%, yeah.
Wow.
So think about, well, people don't know how to feed the dogs and cats.
Yeah.
You know, oh, he wants some more, and I put more in the dish.
Yeah.
You could put the food. I have 2 pit bulls I rescued. I put food and I put it down again. They'll keep eating.
Exactly.
They're like sharks,
Right,
you know.
exactly.
So you have to understand portion control.
Yeah.
Also, how much activity are your pets having?
Yeah.
You know, my dogs are working dogs, so I walk them quite a bit. I mean, I go home. I must walk them 5 times a day.
Yeah.
But the walk is not just for the physicality to burn calories.
Yeah.
It's the bonding.
Yeah. For sure.
There's a big difference when you talk to your dog, not be on the phone,
Yeah.
pay attention to your pet, they're looking up at you. That connection you build, that bond,
No question.
it's incredible.
It's
right?
incredible. Yeah. I when I'm walking my dog and I see people on their phone, you know, just walking mindlessly. They actually did a study where they showed that there was, I forget exactly what they said, but the dog knows that you're not paying attention to the dog. They were able to measure, I don't know, heart rate or something that indicated like a little bit of distress when the owner was looking at their phone. You know, it boggles my mind that you have this, you know, incredibly emotional creature, you know, that you say you love, and you're walking outside, you know, scrolling on social media.
It's disheartening. It's almost like walking with your child and you're not paying attention to your child.
Yeah, it's outrageous to me.
You know, because they have that unconditional love.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I remember about 6 months ago, I had a shepherd. She was like 16 years old. She had cancer we couldn't do anything about, and she died in my arms exactly 3:38 on a Monday morning. And that last breath, she looked at me and just a sigh. My 2 pits came over and curled up with me on the floor with her.
Wow.
And for like 3 weeks, they were just very emotional.
Yeah.
But during the time when they'd hear her like being uncomfortable, they'd come to me, licking my face to come go see her.
Yeah.
So that energy is so powerful.
Yeah.
But now helping people have their loved ones,
Yeah.
our pets, our children,
Yeah.
live a healthier life. Maybe instead of passing away at 8 or 10 or 12, they can live a fuller life to 14 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
Because
They probably should be living that long.
they
right?
should be, yeah.
I mean, but you know, just like humans, when humans overeat, they age faster and they die faster. Same thing with dogs. You overfeed your dog, you're going to shorten their life. That's just science, you know. So
Yeah.
it's I think that would be a great project.
Yeah, you know, like learning from Caesar, I learned that when it says meat byproducts, it can actually be roadkill.
You're kidding.
It could
Really?
be pieces of hoof
Yeah.
and joint and bone. So if you ever see on a label with a pet food, meat
Yeah.
byproducts, don't buy it.
Yeah.
So that's really important. But when I was looking at the ingredient list, I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
your food is so clean.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you know, it's,
And then for the fitness industry,
Yeah.
all these fitness models, all these bodybuilders, all these figure competitors,
yeah.
they feel like I got to stop eating the foods I love to eat for 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
Now they can eat it, and actually the great fiber is moving everything out.
Definitely. Yeah, we have a lot of fitness competitors, like pre-comp, they eat our noodles, but when they start using our noodles, you know, pre-competition, you know, when they're eating, you know, whatever, chicken and broccoli and such,
Yeah.
but they can have noodles. They enjoy it so much that they continue to do it. We've done, you know, the Mr. Olympia show several times to introduce our product to
That's
that
your perfect
audience.
market because
Yeah.
they have to be extreme with the dieting.
Yeah.
So that's perfect, especially because it's gluten-free, wheat-free.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. I mean, it, you know, and it gives you that fiber that you're not necessarily getting when you're eating a really high protein diet.
Well, I'd rather eat your noodles than broccoli or Brussels sprouts. You know?
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, it's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you
Really
so
was
much,
fun
yeah.
to learn about your journey and your mom creating the name of your company, because my mom created the name of my company, Operation Fitness.
Amazing.
And it was in 1985. We were at Thanksgiving dinner, and I said, I'm trying to think of a name. And my brother-in-law was a cadet at West Point. She goes, well, Mark, don't they call everything an operation? She says, yeah. She goes, I know, Operation Fitness. And it's
There you
been
go.
like that since 1985.
That's awesome.
I registered a domain. I trademarked it. But when you told me that, it put a smile on my face, because God bless my mother up there. She really helped me become who I am today.
Yeah.
But I love that connection with your mom. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for watching the show. I really appreciate it if you could share this episode, subscribe, because we really need your support. Thanks for watching.